Hey.
All right. Welcome to the DADnB podcast. I am Zoo22. I'm here with Good Shepherd John and Kevin. It's been a few weeks. Have you come up with a name yet?
No, I'm still working on it. So that's a negative.
All right. And Kevin.
Daddy Kev.
Yes. And so this episode is being brought to you by coffee.
Don't mind if I do.
Nice mug.
Oh, Kevin. Oh, buddy.
I guess you're not the best at it.
Coffee. It's better than tea.
How do you take your tea?
Well, usually I take it right back to the counter because someone's made a horrible mistake. But...
All right. Yeah, so it's been a few weeks since we did this, and I know that I've been super busy, and so have the guys, but a lot has also happened in the little community that we kind of participate in, including some of the people that have been helping us out and really give back that we really appreciate, like Mike Kids, Winslow, and Alpha Rhythm. I was just listening to Full Fat, the just recently released album, and it's great. I feel like Johnny just put together demonstrations that well-chosen sounds and simplicity just can make for beautiful drum and bass. So it's good. I mean, Oris, I feel like I really like his music, and I think there's a few on there that I like, but that one kind of stands out to me. It's a little bit different for him, but
yeah. I like the Oris track a lot too. The other one that I was really digging is the one that Athena made as well. It had a different edge to it. She's definitely an up and coming producer. Super nice too. Very approachable. I think that's the one thing about just that whole label and that stock of artists. Just very humble. A lot of very nice people. So
yeah, good drums. I really like the drums on that track. Yeah, good album. The New Hospital with Alpha and Winslow. Stateside
Future Symptoms.
Future Symptoms. And I guess Winslow also has a double release next week, so we will be keeping an eye out for that. So yeah, like I said, it's been a few weeks. I know I've been super busy, and I think the central thing to DADnB is time management. This week, John and I were just talking about how, I mean, we married our wives for a reason. Like, I love my wife. I like spending time with her. I mean, that was the number one thing. You know, it's not that she knew thing one about drum and bass, but the fact that, like, I just like to be around her. And same with my child, but, you know, I have to be around my child, and I have to manage him and take care of him when I'm not working. And if I'm not, then Molly does, and he's going to bed at 8:30, you know, 8 the earliest. And my wife, Molly, gets up, you know, 5:45 on work days as a nurse. So by 10 p.m. on every night, she's spent. She's tired. She's usually wanting to get into bed closer to 9:30. So if he's going to bed at 8:30, if she needs to shower, get ready for bed, I mean, that maybe leaves us 30 minutes of time. And, you know, that's just our whole schedule. So every other weekend, Molly is off work. Every other weekend, she's on. So like today, we pushed our start time for this because she got off late at the hospital. She comes home. What am I supposed to tell a nurse who's been working in COVID that she's got to immediately start taking care of the baby? No, she's got to have a little time. So, you know, luckily she is supportive of this, and, you know, that's great. But my point, it's not just that she wants to spend time with me. It's that I want to spend time with her too. So It's a lot of directions to get pulled in. If I get one track produced to completion, maybe I have 3 ideas going and 1 finished in a month. That's a pretty good month for me.
Well, I'm actually not working right now, which is nice by choice. But my day is super broken up. You know, I'm with the kid for an hour in the morning, and then I get like 2 hours to myself. Usually I want to get some exercise in, which is a whole nother topic.
You got to stay alive to pay for college.
Yeah. And last week I was actually not really even exercising because I was just so into, making beats. But usually, exercise for 45 minutes, an hour, take a shower, then I don't really have enough time to start working on a track before I have to hang out with him around lunchtime. And then he goes to grandma's for a couple hours. So in the late afternoon, I'll get a couple hours. And then, he's back, and then it's dinner and all that. And then by the time we're done with dinner and all that, it's 8 p.m. So, I maybe get a couple hours in the late afternoon, and then I maybe get some time from like 8 p.m. to 10. But that's where, some of that time obviously is going to be spent with the wife, because she is also working full time as a lawyer. So there's definitely some, I'm actually usually a little bit like, okay with it if she has some work to do at night, because then that means I can go to the studio and we don't have to debate what we're going to do for the evening. She's very supportive of the music, but also, wants to hang out, and I want to hang out with her. But I do get kind of super focused and in the zone. And, when I'm in a groove, it's hard for me to pull out of that groove. And so there are times when, I end up watching TV or something when I'd rather be working on a beat. Super broken up. I don't have that's why I'm just like, please, let's get the vaccines going. And, when my boy will start in kindergarten in the fall, and I'm just like, wow, if I'm off work, I could have like a 6-hour chunk of time or 7-hour chunk of time, which just seems glorious.
Well, this situation is you not working, and sometimes you are working, and then it's just like, probably just like, forget it.
Oh yeah.
Any producer knows that when you get in the zone, you want to run with it, and Kevin and I edit TV shows. It's the same thing. Like, if I'm not in it, I have trouble working, but if I'm in it, I just can crank it out. And it's like, what happens when you say, okay, tonight, my wife's friends have their Zoom meeting in this alternate reality that we live in. She's gonna talk. She's talk on her phone with her friend tonight for a couple hours, catch up. So I got 2 hours, but I got to go to bed at 11 because I'm up on dad duty the next day. So 9 o'clock I sit down. Well, 11 o'clock I finally got my drums finished, and I'm writing a bass line, and I want to write a drop. So what do? I stay up till what are my choices? My choice is to stay up till 1, get like a drop fleshed out, or take the risk of coming back and forgetting where I was doing. Maybe if I did get drums done, that's great, but to me, I'd much rather. And then if you get on that cycle for a few days, yeah, you know what I'm talking about here, John.
Yeah. I mean, we were totally talking about that. Is like, my kids just wrapped up spring break, and we were staying up late because, like, when I have family time, like most of my family, everybody's lights out by like 10:30, and I caught myself jumping on at 10:30 and doing something till 12. Over this past week, I was up till 1, 2 in the morning, just because it's like, I don't feel guilty because I have my own time. Like, everybody's asleep, so I can do this. My wife's like, dude, like, you're burning the candle at both ends, right? Because I got a day job to deal with, and it makes it tricky. The other thing is too, like, Zach, your wife's a nurse. My wife's in nursing school. She's been really busy up until like the last couple weeks, where she'd study and it didn't matter if I was working on music. Well, now, we had a pretty long talk about, like, hey man, you got to kind of like step away from production and come hang out. And it's weird, right? Because you and I and Kevin, you were talking about this too, is like, I honestly am thinking about keeping a timer or something, because I told Heather, I was like, music is one of the things right now where I lose complete
Yeah.
track of time.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it's very rewarding to be creating something, right? Even if it's just for my own enjoyment. I think that's what draws so many of us into it, almost like an addiction that you have to be careful about is you just have complete control. You're making a sound that's in your head and you're taking it from like its birth and trying to, it's like a journey trying to get it across the finish line. And you're invested. Um, so yeah, in terms of time management, that's definitely something that came up recently for me, Zach, was John, you got to balance it. And
Now, was that because
and
she wants you to help out with the kids more, or because she actually wants to hang out with you more, or what was the?
it's because it's a good question because we need to hang out more.
Because you've been married a long time, right? So I was hoping that, like, as the marriage progressed, I would have more time to produce.
No,
Well,
no,
I mean,
no, my friend.
sometimes I feel like John does have more time, but
Yeah.
the perception of someone else's
Yeah.
reality. You know?
Yeah.
And Zach, we talked about one more thing I want to make a point about is Kevin said, "Hey, I'm going to have a block of 6 hours when my child's back in school." And Zach, related to this, had a break of time, like a week off, and you put all this pressure on yourself, like
Yeah.
now I have this time, now I can create, and it's like, dude, like you have to feel the inspiration. And then it's
Yep.
almost self-defeating that like now is the time where I'm going to make that amazing track. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're not.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're going to have more time, but don't.
Yeah. No,
like, manage
I've
your
had
expectations, right?
I've had talks with my wife about that. If sometimes she'll give me a couple hours on the weekend, she'll take the kid on a hike or whatever. And if I don't produce, then sometimes I'm not feeling it. And then I'll feel guilty that I didn't go make music. It's absurd. And but I've told her sometimes I'm just not feeling it, and you can't force creativity. But in our situation, we feel that pressure when you have 2 hours that you need to force the creativity, and sometimes you're just not feeling it. And sometimes I'll go in and I'll work anyway. And other times I'll just relax or do something else, and then inevitably feel a little bit guilty that I didn't force creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right.
and that's where you have to just I say, that's where you have to, and this will solve it. No, I mean, that's the struggle. And I think my thought is usually just, I have to just take a deep breath and accept the road that I'm on. Is that if I'm working, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I'm sitting down at my computer and I'm spending time in the world, I'm not wasting time. That's the hard part is when I do spend 3 hours and wake up the next day, listen to it, and I'm like, what is this crap? This is terrible. Or these drums, my ears got. Is this another thing? And people say, oh, you got to give your ears a break. Every hour. I have 2. I'm not gonna take a break. I gotta stay on this. I only got 2. Mixing especially, it's like writing is one thing that is going better and better for me as I get better, especially, but it goes pretty well for me now. But it's like fine-tuning the sound of things. That just takes so much time. It's a blink of an eye.
It does.
Blink of an eye in 45 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to work on the snare, but I really want to work on the bass on it. I'm just going to work on the snare real quick.
Snare.
And then look up, and it's been an hour.
Yeah.
And I haven't touched the bass line. But
Zach, your snare is shit, right?
Nah, man.
That's the inside joke.
I was watching 30 Minutes with Siren, and as we know, and Winslow was saying this in one of his things, and make these kits, and it's like that's the thing. I have a couple of tracks recently that I thought was going a good direction, but in the end, I'm not feeling that much. But I am feeling the drums, and I really need to go in and just bounce them out because.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm always building them from scratch.
And I think at this stage, it's like those guys have been doing only music for years and started when they were young. They lead a different life than a DADnB does. It's like I cannot compare myself to that.
Yeah.
But I am getting to the stage where some of my tracks have drums that I like. Bounce them.
Yeah.
Like a folder, bounce it out. And, maybe it comes to the point where it's like I watch London Electricity too, and Tony will pick one of his breaks, process it, and those are the drums, not 6 breaks, and two snares and 4 kicks. And no, like, I'm not saying not all the time, but I think sometimes he's just like, no, these drums are good. Put those in.
Yeah.
Maybe throw in like another break for a fill, but just to get back to the point, it's like, okay, I have an hour tonight. All I'm going to do is go back to my old tracks and bounce the drums out. That's not going to suck me down some rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't require creativity, but it does set me up for next time. And that's like another thing. I did have a week off recently, and I said I wanted to make 2 tracks. I wanted to make a hip-hop track, and I wanted to make a drum and bass track, which I did. But the other thing I said I wanted to do with like I have like 3 days, really, where daycare and time, was to collect samples. And that's like another thing that I can do is just like grab records and just go through stuff. And how nice is it to pull from stuff that, because Splice is great. Believe me, it's so useful because it's just searchable and you get your thing in the right key, whatever. But this is me. This is like, 20 years of buying records. And so when I pull something out of here, even if it's been sampled before, it just feels more personal. And to what John was saying, like, this is for me.
Yeah.
I shovel the man's poop.
Gross.
40 to 80 hours a week covered.
What kind of job do you have?
In man's poop.
Yeah. Good thing we're on Zoom, so I don't have to smell it.
Well, hey, and with this quarantine, I don't even shower every day.
And that beard, it's got to be all in there.
Oh, it's dingleberries. What do you call a dingleberry when it's on your face?
I mean, and that's what I was doing. That brings up a point, which another thing you can do, which is what I did, which is I just went deep and really learned Serum this past week. I'd always had it and never really knew all the nooks and crannies and the ins and outs. And so, you can do that for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, go through, deconstruct presets. And then I made a bunch of my own presets, that I tweaked from other presets. And so now I sort of have a bank of, Serum presets. Which I'd never done before, like I always just do it in the moment, but you're not going to spend, after a while of making Serum presets, it gets a little old. So it's a good thing to do for like an hour or something.
I could revisit Serum again. And maybe another thing that's been staring at me is my Moog. That's another thing that I can sit down for 30 minutes, just open up an audio recorder and make some sounds, which I want to do, and I'll pass to you guys. And then another project.
Well, that's presumptuous.
For my month. What? That you'll want them? You want them. Trust I. The other thing I'm going to do is mic up my drums and record breaks again now that I've treated my room. And,
cool.
That I will put up for everyone. Sample them. Tell me they're terrible, do whatever you want, but we'll get you some. I got 2 different snare drums, and we'll do breaks and one-shots, and I'll give them out.
Cool.
Everybody wants them.
Well, I love the idea.
Rim shots is the main thing I want from my stuff, just to try to get that pop on my transients on my snares. Okay, so I'm going to play some stuff. Kevin, can I pick you to go first?
Sure.
You got a sketch for us, right?
Yeah, it's something I started yesterday, and then I spent a couple hours on it today because I knew I would be playing it. I was playing around with Ableton 11, and I found a piano sample that I really liked in one of the packs that it came with, and luckily it had MIDI as well, so I can tweak it, for a B section or whatever. And found a break I liked, and then of course had to thicken up the snare because using old break beats, the snares are rarely good enough, and I might end up having to add the kick. It's got like 5 elements, maybe. It's like 16 bars. There's no risers. It's got 5 elements, but you'll hear the main melody, you'll hear the bass line, It's like, a minute long. And, this is what something sounds like for me after like, 4 or 5 hours. So let me pull this thing up. I'll do a little screen share here.
And are you open to feedback?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it's so short. Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to hear what you think additional elements could be, or a B section could be. I was thinking maybe the B section goes into like a more punchy staccato 808 bass or something, just because it's got like a long sustained bass line. And so maybe for some variation, something that's more funky and staccato for a B section or something. Okay.
Well, first of all, the drums are really sound rad. They sound really like jungle drummer or something. They sound like a real drummer playing them. And yeah, I mean, that's your processing is good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it almost sounds like an amen, but it's just and there's a little edit there. It's going to be the type of thing that I can mess with the drums. I'll be able to do some sort of jungle style edits because it's got sort of the amen sounding kind of rides. And so, but yeah, I'd love to hear thoughts on, where to take it.
Real quick, what is it? Is it layered samples? Is it MIDI?
It's,
it sounds contacty.
No, it's an audio, the drums, it's an old breakbeat I found. It's a breakbeat. I don't think it's old. I think it's been reprocessed by a producer or someone. And then I gated the hell out of it because the cymbals were just way too splashy. So I gated out some of the cymbals and boosted, the kick. I basically had to modernize it. And then I added another snare underneath it that's really subtle, but to give it, the modern transient and some heft. And then it's a Serum Reese, and then it's MIDI piano, and it's a MIDI. That thing, it almost sounds like steel drums, but it's not.
Yeah.
There's like steel drums that sort of fill out the piano part, and then there's the piano part. That's all MIDI, so I can do whatever I want with that stuff. And then but it needs more elements, obviously. And this is where I typically will sort of hit a standstill. Is like, I'll get this far, and then I'm like, what are the extra elements that don't clash or compete?
Kevin, I think it's a really good start. Like one of the things you talked about, the piano, the chord progression, like maybe more of that, I thought sounded good. In the very beginning, the piano sounded like there was maybe a little too much resonance, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Right? I think you're right. Yeah.
The bass line, that da-na-na-na-na, I like that. And you're asking like, what else could you put? And maybe it is a staccato, but like an 808, like da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, boom, 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 boom. Like some kind of like little 808 kicks might be cool. You mentioned that the cymbal was a little splashy. That's the one thing that I wrote down, is it sounded like the hat or something is a little loud. And I've always heard like those percussive elements need to be pushed a little more to the back, so you're kicking your snare up front more. Yeah. So I might just bring that down a bit. And then the other thing that you haven't added yet, because I know this is just a work in progress, is like some kind of sweeping atmospheric to set the mood in the beginning, like a like
Oh
something.
yeah, it needs a lot for the intro needs a lot.
Yeah, but then it would just be like, man, like the steel drum sound I really like, and Zach, the breaks sound good, but the Reese and the bass, the sub bass are really, I like it a lot. It's a good start.
Yeah, just I mean, obviously one way to not add an element and change it too much is some filtering. Just to me, like a simple filter, just opening up on the bass, just bring it down a little bit, and then let the highs in at the ends of the 16s kind of stuff, or in the middle. Like the one that I've been working on, I really kind of played with that. It's not the one I'm going to play, but I might play a snippet of it. But that's one way to change it and keep it interesting without adding a new element or really changing it. But then I also that's why I got to close my eyes, and I kind of heard a little bit of like, even I know you don't want it to be too crazy or anything, but like even kind of gating it a little bit, or like chopping it just a little bit. And I'm talking about like after you've introduced it, wump, bump, bump, bump. And that's kind of, it's similar with John is saying, like hearing just at the end of the phrase, hearing like a staccato thing, but you already kind of said that. So
well, I was thinking about a whole 16 bar section where the bass line becomes like maybe a staccato 808 or so, potentially.
You just strip out the break and bring that steel drum. Just let the steel drum roll with the bass line maybe, or something. Anyways, I think you got enough feedback. You've got so many good directions to take this. Like,
but definitely
the bed is
keep
good.
going. Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Another solid sketch from the nameless Kevin.
The one that they call.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's ready for?
I'll go next.
Crickets.
That's all right with everyone.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Where is it? Oh, that's not it. What?
Nice pants.
Who is this stylish guy?
Wowzers.
That guy's going to go on to really have some hat game.
Wowzers.
Yes. My mom wouldn't buy me jams, and she forced me to wear these cheap ones. Jams, look it up. Anyway.
You look hard, though. You look hard in that picture.
I mean, I'm saying, like, Venice Boardwalk, like, what? Look at these guns popping.
Yeah.
Shirt.
Your pecs are flexing.
Take it easy on that shirt, guy.
And you've got the color coordination.
Yeah. Still, though. All right. Next up, the one that they call DJV. Tell me if it's too loud. Just give me up or down.
Okay. Nice. Sick. That's great.
Thanks. I didn't preface that with.
Was that the one you made on your 3 days off?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's since the last podcast. Like I was pretty negative Nelly of the last podcast, and I just think it's kind of funny that I turned around and like made what I think is my best track yet, and I was like super happy with it. I had 2 different mix downs, and I couldn't remember which one was which, and now I'm wondering if that was not the one that I wanted to play. But regardless, just the chimes I remember turning down. But
how many hours on the fruity timer?
I would have to look, but I would guess 12
Wow,
or 13.
it's fast.
Maybe 14. But yeah, I was like all down on myself, and then like, yeah, I think that was the time off. I like found that got that sample off of a record, that kind of that one, and used Serato sample, and which I'm really liking using, especially for that sort of thing, to be able to take a sample and flip it to where it's not real recognizable, but you still get that sonic quality of like a 70s, 60s, 70s soul record.
What's the drum shuffle? I like the drum shuffle you found.
I'm not at liberty to.
About sample or MIDI programmed or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something I go back and forth on. It's like, using a break to get a shuffle that isn't, if I have a principal snare, which I always do, using the shuffle is going to sound different. So do I end up putting?
I know, that's why I ask.
Pregnant?
Yeah.
Well,
it is hard to get good shuffles, sometimes.
So honestly, I kind of have to look at it again, but I'm pretty sure that is from the break. But I put the principal snare under it a little bit to give it a similar. So it sounds like it's the ghost note from the same snare drum as the principal snare, but it's placed underneath the break, so that it really comes from a break that's over top of it, and it's one that I really like, and I will share it with you when we get a chance. You should have it if you've been downloading the stuff that we've been sharing, but I'll tell you the name of it when we get done.
Yeah, shuffles are a pain in my butt sometimes to find, like...
But it's part of a break. It's not just a shuffle by itself.
Right.
I know that.
Okay, so I wrote, I really like the ride at 154. There's a nice kind of sustained ride that works really well. I said the string was a bit, when the drop comes in, the strings come in with it, and the string was a bit loud. Because anyway, like you might not even need the string on the drop, but it was a bit loud. And then I also said the auto panning on the hats at the drop was a little distracting, because once I noticed them, I was just like following the hats around in my head, and I wasn't listening to the track. But then later on, I heard them auto panning, and it didn't bother me. So maybe that's something that can evolve slowly over time, the auto pan or whatever.
I can narrow them too.
140, the hit was a little bit loud when it first comes in. It was, but it's a cool hit. And then I wrote the kick. I don't know if I think it's a different kick you use leading up to the second drop. Just the kick that leads up to the second drop, I thought was a little bit like kind of big and wide and almost hip hoppy sounding. Like it felt different than, it didn't feel like it necessarily gelled with the other kick that's in the drop, or maybe something about that kick.
They're different.
It's the same. So I wonder if what it is that
Interesting.
endless smile. It might be.
Oh yeah, it might be doing something to it.
Because endless smile is like it's like a reverb.
Yeah,
it's a whole built-in filter.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Might be putting a reverb on it to make it. Because the kick's pretty right down the center. So.
But
that's great.
Off.
It's great.
In the first
really
drop.
good. But yeah, it's really, really good. I do think it's one of your better tracks. if not the best. But you have some other really good ones that I like too. So hard to say.
The compression thing is like, that is definitely, a whole episode.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I will listen to my intros versus my drops, like the one that I've been working on, and it's like the drums just like, and certain elements come in and they seem to like push other stuff down, and it's noticeable. So yeah. John, what's up?
Yep. So I think it's the best track you've made thus far. I would say easily, but then that implies the rest of your songs aren't good, and I don't think that. So, but I would say my favorite of yours. The other favorite of mine that you and I did together is Let Me Explain, which I'm re-editing, that maybe we'll share again once you agree that you like what I did with it. But back to this.
We'll talk about that.
All right. So the reverse piano sound, or that Serato sound that you did, does that run from the beginning to the very end? It feels like it's present in the entire song. I love the sound. I guarantee you that's your favorite sound in the song, right? So the only thing I would say is there's a few points where it sounds like it's really turned down, and I'm just wondering if you take it out completely, so that your ears don't get tired of hearing the do 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 do, because it's awesome, right? But it's like, maybe it's too much. That's personal taste. The ear candy in the highs, like your bells or your chimes, I love that. Like, that is an element that I can't figure out in my songs. So I really love the way you did that. I think you said you weren't sure if you played the right one, but I thought it was good. There's a lot of elements in your song, but they're balanced really well. I do find it interesting that Kevin points out the exact moment that I made a note about. At 1 minute and 40 seconds into the track, I felt like there's just too much going on there. So I don't know, maybe just take a look at it, but so yep, good stuff.
So yeah, let's move on. John, what you got?
Okay, so this is Ways of the Underground.
The underground. It's the ways of the underground. The underground. It's the ways of the underground. I'd rather be one of them. I'd rather be one of them. I'd rather be one of them. The underground. The underground. 'Cause nowadays it's the ways of the underground. I was suffering from some problem. I'd have to think that something was wrong. Then I would have to change my job because I know something is wrong. I'd rather be one of them. I'd rather be one of them. I'd rather be one of them. The underground. It's the of the underground. If I was suddenly to become popular, I'd have to think that something was wrong with me. Then I would have to change my style because I know something is wrong. I'd rather be one of the few than one of the many. The underground. I'd rather be one of the few. I'd rather be one of the few. I'd rather be one of the few. Because nowadays it's the ways of the underground. I'd rather be one of the few. See, that's my philosophy. If I was suddenly to become popular, I'd have to think that something was wrong with me. Then I would have to change my style because I know something is wrong. I'd rather be one of the few.
Word. Well, I mean, one of the things that, John, I know you've been working on is getting some nice, crispy, non-flaming drums, and I feel like you have made that happen for sure. I definitely like the drums, and I really feel like the snare sounds good. My opinion, nice and cracky, punches through. And overall, I like the song, like, the kind of old school piano-y thing. In the first iteration of it, I didn't like it as much. I liked it better when it came back in the second drop, the kind of reprise of it. But I don't know. I'm not totally sold on it. Other than that, I like overall the feel and the sound and the vibe of the track. I just don't know. I feel like if it's something that you really like and it's personal, you should stick with it, but maybe warm it up a little bit, give it some analog warmth or something. But so because at 1:30 when it drops out, I feel like I'm a lot more into the track, and I think a lot of the developments and the other elements that you bring in keep it interesting, and I kind of liked it a lot more. But then again, like I said, when it came in the second drop, didn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going for the sofa kind of groove
more
to
chill.
it. Yeah.
Because I don't think it's, especially with those drums, I don't think it's on dance floor. And the other thing is just the bass drum are these long droning notes through the whole song, and I feel like some movement with filtering or even just those kind of ba-boom, ba-boom, just varying the notes, a couple more just these long it just makes the melody really, there's not a lot of movement both sonically and melodically, so maybe for a first 16, that's cool. You just feel like, here's the sound, like, it's dropping on you. But I think it would help to have like some more melodic elements, probably both, or like movement, filtering, opening saturation and closing it, or filtering, just something to kind of keep that bass line rolling.
Yeah.
Again, I like when I'm in the world of this song, like I'm in it and I like it, and the drums, like I really, I think, that's definitely a track to like polish up.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it too. I mean, I thought the vocal sample could probably be used less. For me, like, I think less is more, it's like, but I like what you did with it, and you use different parts of it, I like the pads, the strings, it's almost dub techno-y. There's like, it's like cloudy. I don't know what that is, but that's really cool sound. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, or if it's a secret or a sample or a synth sound that you made, but I like dub techno, and it's kind of, I like bringing some of dub techno elements into my tracks. So that's a cool sound. I thought the hats were a little bit loud. By the end of the song, I noticed like there's a shaker that's mixed well that came in, but I was like the hats, or maybe just de-ess them a little bit or roll off some of the high frequencies on some of the hats. Yeah, I wrote for the build to the second drop, not sure. I wrote mainly just the very end when it gets super quiet, like maybe you put in like some field noise or something, in the back, because it gets so quiet. You could maybe even have, just like some sound of nature or something, so that it's not so dead, or fill out that sound. It didn't feel like it was quite fleshed out. But once again, that could be a personal, I mean, obviously you wanted it to be quiet, but I felt it was like a little too thin, maybe. And then I wrote that the drums could change up a bit more. The drum pattern is very unique, and I thought it got a little repetitive, the pattern itself. So maybe once again, maybe like 8 or maybe 16 bars of like the same drums, but just a slightly different, because the kick in particular, I think there's a lot of kick. And so, maybe for 16 bars, you go into more of like a two-step kind of a thing, and then so you'd have compare and contrast of like this busier kick, and then it goes into, like a more solid rolling groove may work.
And the thing is, the splash too is like for 5 minutes of but like so just swapping a non-splash kick for that first one could help it. But Kevin, that's interesting. I would like to hear that.
I wrote, and then I wrote just needs a bit of something, which, one idea could be, there's a piano part I noticed towards the end, and I was like, maybe that could be the something, but it's also kind of filtered, and it's not super upfront. And I was like, maybe with some different EQing or something, like at 135-ish, I thought maybe it was going to change up a little bit, either melodically or rhythmically. And then, so that's probably like 16 or 32 bars into the first drop. And it didn't, I had this expectation mentally, and then it didn't actually pan out. And so, I mean, maybe that's where the piano comes in, and maybe it's EQ'd a little brighter or more forefront, or a different sound. I mean, I know we want it to be kind of a sofa sound, so it's always easier to tweak the elements you have. So I'm like, maybe that piano could just be EQ'd to be a little bit brighter and more of a primary melodic element, potentially, because it does feel like it needs a little bit of. I feel like you probably have the melody. It's just maybe just changing the EQing a bit, because it felt like it needed a little more melodically. But I think it's probably in there. It may just be, maybe by tweaking the elements, the EQing and the filtering of the piano.
The melody is like there, Yeah, I think that's good note. It's like, I think the melody is there. Like I feel,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, when I'm in the world, I feel like I'm getting what you're putting down, man. So like, yeah,
Cool.
not writing
Yeah,
something
that's
isn't your thing.
no, that's really good feedback from both you and Kevin. I appreciate like all that stuff. I can relate to like maybe like you're looking for a bit more chord progression with that piano. And I've moved around that piano so many times because there's the piano and then there's the other kind of more atmospheric synthy sound, which is a sample. So the piano I played and I threw a ton of processing on top of it where I can brighten it up. I think that's a great suggestion. The drum break idea is good too because I really do ride that gated break all the way home, and so I could do that. The field noise, so I put that in all my songs. I didn't put that in here, and a lot of times I put a drone note too, which I didn't do. So that's a really good catch. And then de-essing the highs on some of the breaks. I'll look into that. I don't have a good de-esser plugin, but I'll look into that.
There's a fruity one.
There is okay, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like I love down tempo music. I love house. Like in the first podcast we talked about our backgrounds, and I just love bringing in some of those elements.
Maybe I mean
So
I said that I felt the second drop more. So I mean, it sounds like you've already tried this, but if you want to
mhm.
throw a version back at us where it's
Okay.
like that one, what happens at 140 with all the atmospherics and the piano comes
Mhm.
out, start with that because it also lets your bass line be more the star, and then bring the piano in to just not, because to me, I think that makes more sense. Like a melody adds to
So
like, ooh, but did you try that? And
so I haven't, and I like that idea because I actually like the second drop more than the first. So why not follow that arrangement, right? And then I think the bass line is fairly simple. Zach, to your point, I do add like a dirty kind of 808 on top. There's some hits that hit in the mid bass range on the second drop that I only let go for about the first 16 bars.
or
Um,
maybe drop out the other one like completely
yeah,
when you do it, just to like. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I think that's good. I think we got to wrap up.
yep.
I'll
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut this out too, but I'll make some cuts. So yeah,
Can
man.
we can we do quick shout outs? We had a few
So yeah,
people.
so I think that was good stuff, and we're gonna keep doing this. And I started this because I wanted a place for the three of us. Well, there's two of me, but the three of us to get together and support each other in this. But I hope that not only other dads, but other new DnB producers or old or whatever that are just on this journey will join us and possibly be on the show and certainly submit questions. So for right now, what we have is the YouTube. So if you have any questions or topics you want us to talk about, or if you want to join in the conversation or whatever, just drop a comment in any of the videos and let us know. And we're going to be reaching out to some hopefully like mentor types that can help us and hopefully help anybody that listens to the show. Our social media stuff will be posted in the description, and yeah, I highly recommend joining up on Bad Snares Anonymous on Discord. Maybe do the right thing, support Patreon, Mike Kiss, Alpha Rhythm, Winslow. All these people have been so cool to us and really give back. So yeah, Johnny, what do you got?
I think you covered I think just the people that have been with us since the beginning that are tuning in, like you mentioned, Winslow, Ransom, Sky Cousteau, Moonborn Unicorn,
Yeah,
MBU,
MBU.
ZJ, Johnny Mike Kiss, Ben Rollo, Robad, and Geek Croft. Looking forward to having more people following us. So Appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're definitely open to suggestions, and
Yeah, give me a name.
oh yeah,
Yes.
we'll have a
Name
contest.
Kevin.
Yeah, name that Daddy Kev.
Big Daddy Kev.
All right. And on that note, I'd also like to mention our sponsor, which is coffee. Coffee, it's better than tea. All right. Cheers, mates.
Cheers.
See y'all next
Yeah.
time.
All right.
And cut.